Right, so let's start with the 5D Mark One. The 5D Mark One is often people's favorite Canon camera, and for very good reason. At the time when Canon were making it, they were trying to make a camera that would appeal to film photographers. And whilst it would be incorrect to say that the pictures look like film, they certainly look a lot less digital than a lot of other digital cameras do. So if I had to describe as a mostly portrait and wedding photographer who does a little bit of landscape and street photography, I would say that the 5D Mark One can do all of those. It will probably struggle a little bit more at the landscape photography because it has limited dynamic range. However, stick it on a tripod and you'll be okay. But you have to understand the 5D Mark One has no live view. So there is no way for you to press a button on the camera and then the screen go in to show you a view of what it sees, which we take for granted now. You have to remember this is a very old camera by today's standards. However, the image quality, here's a street photo of like a street scene. I like doing these sort of just sort of urban photography, but I like doing this stuff. This was shot in the 5D Mark One, and it can handle this really easily. And this is just a JPEG in camera with a little bit of editing in Lightroom afterwards, but you can still get this really nice look from it. And it's very easy to get these kind of looks. Now, when it comes to portraiture, you're going to get these creamy skin tones like in this picture. The 5D Mark One just excels at this, and it is a superb portrait photographer's camera, especially if you do studio work, but outdoors as well. I think it suits people so well. It has that slight three-dimensionality that you used to see in pictures that were shot on film. It has a little bit of that. It's not as good as film, but it's just got that kind of thing about it. It veers in that direction. And this is the reason why people love this camera so much. And it also produces really nice JPEGs in camera. Now, what do you have to be aware of? I've mentioned the screen not having live view. You're not going to get the auto ISO. This is a sort of aperture priority, set the ISO manually camera, or just shoot it in manual mode type of setup. The focus system is ancient. You're mostly stuck with center focus point and recompose. But I like shooting like that. I don't have any problem doing that. But the focus system is old and it's slow by today's standards, but it is absolutely functional. Speaking of the focusing system, you should also be aware that it doesn't have the ability to adjust the focus of the lenses. It doesn't have this, is it called micro adjust? You know, where you can take a test shot and see that the lens is either front or back focusing, and then make those adjustments to the camera to say, okay, this lens is missing by this much, therefore correct that amount. That is also going to cause you problems with potentially like Sigma lenses and so on. You can get lucky and find lenses that work perfectly with it. Now, you're also going to be stuck with the CF cards as well. And the CF cards mean you'll need a CF card reader. You'll need to get a good one. Don't buy a cheap one. They're rubbish and you'll get bent pins. Then Canon went and released the 5D Mark II. And with the 5D Mark II, some things were fairly different, especially the way the images rendered. But some other things were the same. So it has the same focusing system. So everything I just told you about the focusing system is exactly the same. But now you can micro adjust your lenses. So that's a benefit. For me, what they did with the 5D Mark II with the rendering compared to the 5D Mark I, they came out with a different look that was more contrasty, just a more punchy, vibrant feel overall, and these warm, earthy tones, and I love it. I think it's almost as good a look as the 5D Mark I, but it is rather different at the same time. And the look they came out with in the 5D Mark II had the look for me that suited landscapes, despite the fact that this camera has a very limited dynamic range. The look for landscapes is my favorite of any camera that I've shot. And it's a little bit of a shame that it's a lower dynamic range camera, but at the same time, I own a tripod. It's not a very good tripod, admittedly, but it's strong, it's stable, and it's pretty heavy. And because of that, I can do anything I want with the 5D Mark II, and I don't really have any limitations. And the most important thing is I don't care. So I just get on with it, and I enjoy using the camera. The screen on the back is larger, and one thing I've noticed with it, even compared to the 5D Mark III and the 6D Mark I feel that whilst the 5D Mark II screen is lower resolution, it feels to me as if it's more evenly bright or more evenly lit across the entire screen. I felt like the 5D Mark III and 6D Mark I screen vignetted quite a lot. This has nothing to do with peripheral illumination correction in the camera, which is like a vignetting fix within the camera to brighten up the sides. It's not about that. I'm just literally talking about the panel itself. That means as well for landscapes that I think that it's more suited towards that. But in addition to that, the 5D Mark II has excellent skin tones, and I really love what it does with hair. It makes hair look glossy and contrasty and punchy because that's its kind of look. It's a much more beefed up, punchy version of a file than you would get out of the 5D Mark I. And that created its own thing. So let me just use describing words to describe the 5D Mark I to the 5D Mark II. 5D Mark I is soft, creamy, and a little bit analog. 5D Mark II is punchy, contrasty, and rustic and warm. And for that reason, I own both of these cameras because I love the looks that come from both of them. I think it just becomes too tempting to not have both of them. So who is the 5D Mark II for? Well, I think the 5D Mark I is more of a specialist camera. Whilst you can do anything on any camera, it really just suits that kind of people photography more. The 5D Mark II does people photography extremely well, but now it's more of an all-rounder, and I think that's what they were after. I'm not going to go into video for this because it added video, but we're just talking about photography. You get more megapixels, which means you can crop a little bit more. You're still with a single CF card slot as well, but now you're on the modern batteries, and that really makes the camera a lot better and a lot more usable if you're going to be going away on photography trips and doing more extended work with it. I would say as well that you've now got the weather sealing and so on in the 5D Mark II. I was recently in Wales using it in really heavy rain, even by the standards in Wales where it can get really bad. I had it on a shoulder clip with the back facing up, and I was tipping water out of the viewfinder before using the camera. It was filling up to the top and I was tipping it out, and the camera was taking it, working flawlessly because I just let the camera be used. And this is one of the advantages by using these older cameras like this that are cheaper. You can not wrap it up, or stick it in a dry bag, or I have to get a rain cover out for it. Well, I don't have to do any of that. I just let it get rained on. And I think other photographers would probably stare at me for doing that, thinking, what's that guy doing? He's not using a rain jacket for his camera. Well, I'm just using my camera and getting on with it because I know what my camera can do. I'm really experienced with this camera and I understand it, and I don't have to worry about these things as well because it's not really a particularly high value camera. So I'm enjoying my photography more because the experience, I'm liking the fact that I trust this camera to handle these conditions. And I feel like it's like letting your dog off the lead, or letting the horse run in the field. It feels a bit like that, like you're letting the camera let rip and do what it was designed to do. And I get pleasure in that. I like doing that with my cameras. It makes you feel like you're having an experience with that camera, and it makes photography enjoyable. Because if that was an R5 Mark II, it would be in a dry bag and in my backpack, and then just pull it out to take a little picture and stick it back in again. That is not fun for me personally, and it might be fun for you, but for me, no, I don't want to do that. I want to use the thing properly and let it, have its day and get on with it. So the 5D Mark II, the downsides with the 5D Mark II are we're still in the limited dynamic range. This is going to be a running thing, so you will probably need a tripod for landscape stuff sometimes in certain conditions because you've got this limited dynamic range, especially coming from Nikon. Like if you're a Nikon shooter, be ready. The autofocus system will be like a cruel joke for you if you're coming from Nikon, to be quite honest, DSLRs, and the dynamic range as well. But what you will get rewarded with for anyone who buys these cameras is files that when you edit them, you'll be like, yeah, that's nice. They fall into place so quickly and easily, and you're not fighting against it when you're doing the editing. It just feels like, right, I want it to be darker in the shadow areas at the lower bit, so I'll pull the black slider to left and I'll move the contrast up a bit, and then let's warm it up slightly, and oh my gosh, that's what I wanted. You get there fast with it. To summarize where we're up to here, the 5D Mark II made the 5D series an all-rounder that could do everything well and some other things excellently. So within the field that I was shooting, if I had to shoot a wedding, I'd want the 5D Mark II. You've got better ISO control. You can see the screen on the back better, which is nice and gives you more confidence when you're working with it. But the Mark II has batteries which seem more stable to me with a longer battery life. And I think the whole system feels like it had matured a bit at that stage. So throughout this video, you've been seeing my work and the kind of pictures that I've taken with these cameras. If you like the way that these pictures look, then you can learn the way that I edit my way from my online workshops. I have workshops for outdoor portraits, studio portraits, and also for landscape photography. I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can check those out and you can learn how I edit my pictures my way. If you like the video, consider giving it a like, subscribe if you're new here if you want to see more content like this. Drop me a comment and let me know which is your favorite Canon 5D series body. I'll see you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.